this panel is called AI Expertise in Action. My name is Symoné B, and I am a radar system engineer, and I'm also the founder of GovTechCon. And today we have two panelists here. We have Gussman, customer engineer at Google, and we also have Lisa Tsyvine, human capital principal at Deloitte. So this is going to be a great panel talking about AI today. So this first question is for both of you all. So can you all explain in simple terms why AI is a game changer in the national security space?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for having us here today. Very excited to talk about AI in talent acquisition. And why is AI such a game changer in the national security space? Well, I will say that personally, I will never forget the first time, which I think was November 2022, that I used ChatGPT. I don't know, does anybody else remember the first time that they used ChatGPT? And like how much it blew your mind? I bet some of you were like, write a screenplay for this or whatever. I will tell you what I did was I actually gave it a real problem that I was having at work. And I asked it to write me a couple intro paragraphs for a proposal that I was working on. And it did it as good, if not better, than some of the analysts that I have on my teams. And I immediately was shocked and hooked. And so that was my experience with an LLM, a large language model. But if I'm zooming out and not making it about myself, and my experience with ChatGPT, which obviously, I was like, this is a game changer. Oh, by the way, just to finish that story out, after I played around with ChatGPT, I called my mom, I called my dad, I texted my sister because she's not, a boomer. And I texted her, I told them, this is gonna change everything. I don't know what it was like when, we moved to computers or the internet became pervasive, but this is about to change how we do our whole lives. And that was a huge deal. Now zooming out to national security. Basically what it's gonna do in every sense is it's going to help to make decisions better. It's going to help put into place predictive and analysis and analytics. And it's going to automate things that we don't want to do anymore. And that can be applied to all work. And you can imagine the implications in national security, the opportunity for better reconnaissance and so forth. But wherever it's applied, it's going to change the game. And I think it's already doing that. So thanks for the question.
Over to you, Aaron.
Hey, I'm Aaron. Really excited to be here. I just want to start by saying, before I answer the question, I do want to say it is super intimidating to be on a panel about national security with someone whose last name literally starts with TS.
That was the point.
Yeah. But to talk about AI a little bit. Also, is everyone sick of hearing AI? Like, I'm surprised no one has turned this into a drinking game yet. Like, I expect to see every time we say it, somebody to take a swig or something. I tend to be a very skeptical person by nature, but I am totally bought on with the AI hype. I don't consider it hype. This is real, and it is going to change a lot of things about our personal lives and our professional lives. What's really exciting about right now is that I don't think we really know exactly to the extent that it actually is going to change things. We're still in the early stages of this, and we're still figuring out with the power of LLMs and who knows what future technologies are gonna come, all of the impacts that that's gonna have. I sort of lump these changes into sort of two broad categories. And most of the conversations right now are, how can AI change existing workflows? How can AI improve, simplify, streamline, reduce friction, all of the pain points in our day-to-day lives? So that's where a lot of the focus is right now. And you see that in a lot of ways where there's an existing system or software tool or process, and AI is being added into it. So it's this additive process of inserting AI into the existing work that we're doing now. The other category, which is also really exciting, is the new types of things that you can now do that were not even possible. Nobody thought about this before because we didn't have the technological tools to do those types of things. And I think we're really just at the very early stages of discovering what that is. And given sort of like the global competition with foreign powers, like there's going to be a very rapid cyclic learning curve as we begin to adopt these things in the national security space.
Definitely. And here, you're at Google with everything cloud. So this next question is for you. How does using cloud technology enhance AI applications compared to traditional computing models?
Yeah, so within Google Cloud, we're seeing sort of two different driving forces for AI adoption. So one, we're doing a lot of what I described before, which is like inserting AI into everything, right? Because everyone's really excited about how can we take like an existing tool and improve its usability via AI. So if any folks here use like Gmail in your personal lives, you might have started to see like AI helping out with that. And we've been using it for a while internally on things like search. We're seeing it increasingly used in maps as well. So that is one type of thing that I think everyone is going to start to see more and more of in your personal lives, not just Google tools, but everything that everyone is using. From a more from more of a cloud perspective, the thing that Google is doing that I'm really excited about is we're investing in like the research and development to create new LLMs and the other ecosystem of tools around that. That might include like specialized databases for vectors, or embedding models, and a lot of agentic tooling, which is very important right now. We're doing like the R&D to do that, but then when it becomes available via cloud, it reduces the barrier of entry for people to start to use that. And so we support both customers directly or intermediary software vendors to incorporate AI into their tools, and the barrier to doing that is rapidly dropping over time.
Do you have any insight on when Gmail is going to start to incorporate AI agents so we don't have to respond to emails anymore?
We wouldn't want to do that until we had an AI agent on the other side to read it and then respond back for you. So we got to figure out both sides of that first.
Okay. So Lisa, how can AI improve the recruitment process for government agencies or organizations, especially when trying to attract specialized talent in fields like cybersecurity or AI itself?
Yeah. Well, I to be honest, I think it would be I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the time that we're in right now, which is that there's going to be some hiring changes in terms of how much the government is hiring and what kind of talent that they are hiring. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that the way that we've operated in talent acquisition, talent management, and the like is about to undergo a major shift. And I think that that's actually a huge opportunity. And I'm sure that anyone who's ever worked in government or with government or something having to do with government has said at least once to themselves, why do we do it like this? We could do it so much better. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity with how the time that is perhaps now, where there might be a slowdown around talent acquisition, is actually a great opportunity to prepare oneself for what it will look like in the future. And ultimately, I think what that looks like is thinking about the AI investment, building out profiles for hiring data scientists, AI engineers, and the like. And I really think that this is all going to take shape quickly, and I know this because it's already starting. So an example of recently where Deloitte has worked with the Army is around a solution called Recruit 360, and that solution is one where it takes a bunch of different data from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, data from, what kinds of magazine subscriptions do people have? Do they have a gym membership? Where do they live? What kind of, degree do they have? Lots and lots of different data in this huge data lake. And what we did was ultimately we helped the Army, who in FY 22 and 23 did not meet their hiring goals. And in 24, they in fact did, because they were able to use this data lake and the profiles built to kind of cull that data lake to create a list of sources or candidates for sourcers to reach out to, so that the sourcers and the recruiters were not in a situation where they just cold calling random 18-year-olds. They were looking for candidates that actually looked like they were the right kind of folks who would want to join the Army. And so based on that, the Army met their hiring goals and have continued to use Recruit 360 across other geographies. I actually don't know if I said this in the beginning, but that was, there was a focus in certain geographies where they had lower enlistment. And so I see nodding over there, yay, validation. So in any case, yeah, so we're helping to create these solutions now. They're already being utilized. It's about the right data, having the profile for who you're trying to hire, right? Because you need to understand what it is that the skill set is. Then there are other solutions that can help you to tell actual culture fit, right? Like there's tools like Pymetrics or HireVue and the like, where it can tell you, if this position is really risk averse, you need someone to be risk averse. There are solutions that can help tell you based on online assessments what kind of individual that is, would the culture fit be in alignment there. And so there's lots of different tools that are already here, they are already ready to be implemented. Even solutions like Creative Edge that help you to build out actual campaigns, like what do they look like? It can literally, you can say, I would like to build out a marketing campaign around recruitment for this kind of role. I would like there to be an emphasis on national security. I would like there, so on and so forth. And it builds, just like ChatGPT, it builds the visual campaign, it builds the linguistics of the campaign, it can build all of that out for you. Again, humans need to be at the center of it to make it make sense and really tailor it to the goal. But high level, we're already there with a lot of these solutions, and I think that the government and industry need to get on that train quickly, and a lot of them are. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that definitely answered the question. And I think that it's a great time for professionals to focus on upskilling. So just like you said, there's a lot of opportunity right now, even though there's a lot of changes. But it's definitely time for people to upskill, focus on AI, and just taking their skills to the next level. So, Aaron, so in terms of national security often requires real-time insights. How do AI-powered cloud systems enable quick and accurate decision-making in high-stakes scenarios?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways that AI cloud systems can help with that. I sort of think of them as being maybe early in the process and then later in the process. So not everything in national security, but a lot of it can be boiled down to like, I'm looking for a very specialized needle in a very large haystack. And with the amount of tools that are available in systems in national security, that haystack is growing tremendously over time. And the needles are not necessarily getting easier to find. So one thing AI can do is to help make that haystack a little bit smaller earlier in the process. So some of the engagements that I've been a part of with our customers, it's looking at inserting AI technology early into the data collection process to do initial triage so that you can very quickly, as data are coming in, say like, hey, this is something I've seen before. I don't need to keep looking at it. Or this is not what I need to worry about. I can either deprioritize it for further analytics or maybe even get rid of it entirely because it's not actually useful for national security. So if you insert AI earlier into the process, that reduces the amount of looking at things, the amount of data that you need to look at or analyze or compute downstream that can lead to cost savings and time savings as well. The other way that AI can help is at sort of the other end of that spectrum, which is there's a human who is trying to find that needle, and I don't know if anyone's ever had a job like this before, but you maybe need to go to like one database or one web-based resource to do this part of the process, and then you're cutting and pasting to another part of another database. I guess maybe that was just me. I don't know, maybe nobody else ever had to do that. But with AI, and specifically something that's fairly new called agentic systems, there's a lot of potential for automating that toil, the manual parts of that process that are so inefficient. With agents, you can do two key things. One is have a common interface that can search against all of those. Some of you who are maybe have heard this before, you're like, great, federated search, that's been around for a while. Congratulations, you reinvented a thing. But the other thing that's really impressive about using an agentic approach is that the user, the operator, whomever, can actually communicate with the agent in terms of their goals. So they can say like, I am looking for blank. So like to use sourcing candidates as an example, right? Like I need someone with a background in cybersecurity who has at least 3 years of DevOps experience and lives in this geographic region. And it can infer things about the goals of what you're looking for and use that to query the underlying data sources so that you as a user don't necessarily need to understand exactly how they're organized, exactly what each of the different fields do, or anything about like the underlying schema. So it's being able to insert AI to both ends of that processor where we're seeing a lot of gains right now.
Okay. So Lisa, back over to the recruiting side of things. So with the rise of AI in these fields, how should governments and organizations prepare their workforce to collaborate effectively with these technologies?
Is that to both of us or just to her?
Both of you can answer it.
Can you guys go one more time?
Yeah, I got you. So with the rise of AI in these fields, how should governments and organizations prepare their workforce to collaborate effectively with these technologies?
So collaboration is always a challenge. And often I don't think it's necessarily a technological one. A lot of that comes from the top down, and the fact that in reality, a lot of organizations have their own goals, and they're their own sub goals within the overall goals of their organization, and those come into conflict. You see it in any human system that's ever existed throughout time. I think where this is going to, what we're going to see is the recognition that AI is not like a flash in the pan technology, and that it is something that these organizations need to invest in, and that it is worth taking the time for the constituent employees of those organizations to learn it and understand it within the context of their mission. So I would say don't approach it from the perspective of the ground up of like, okay, what is this weird science fiction thing that I need to understand how it works? It's understanding the broad strokes of, okay, these are the types of things it's good at, these are the types of things it's not good at. How can I take the things that it's good at and leverage it against my mission about what I'm trying to accomplish?
I agree completely. And I would add, ultimately it's about raising awareness and understanding of the solution, whatever it is from an AI perspective. Also, getting data owners and process owners involved at the very front end so that they have a hand in and a buy-in around what that AI solution is ultimately going to be. And finally, it's helping everyone, the people that will be using it, the data owners and the process owners, making sure that they're staying up to speed on even the smallest changes. We changed this about the model. This change to the process is going to be implemented. And additionally, also getting out there those quick wins, and on a regular basis sharing out to the person who sits next to you all the way up to the director of your organization. Yeah, we saved this much time. This couldn't be done before, it now it can. Whatever that is, those quick wins are going to be really important to share out. And I think that beyond that, another way that the government also needs to start to prepare their workforce for adopting AI is by letting some people know, because I know that right now there's been a lot of emphasis on human always in the loop, and I think that is extremely true, and it will continue to be the case. But I don't think that it's true that everyone or that the majority of people will continue to just be users of AI. I think that moving forward, the reality is that those data owners and those process owners are also going to have to understand AI in a way that they might not now and they might not be comfortable with yet. Because getting the data into the models in the way that becomes most valuable and actionable is going to be different. I think specifically about my human capital clients across the national security sectors, and I can tell you that a lot of my HR clients don't really even know what ChatGPT is, and that's fine for now. And again, using this time now to get them up to speed is going to be extremely critical. But it is not, I don't think, and this is just me talking, Lisa, sorry Deloitte, but I think there's no way that there isn't a need for the data owners, the process owners to eventually need to understand exactly how that data needs to be configured, how it fits from a process perspective into the AI solution moving forward. So they're probably going to have to learn about that more than they have a baseline for now.
The one thing I would add to that is, like, a huge portion of my job is just staying on top of the advances in AI at Google, in the overall competitive landscape. And I don't know if I'm doing a great job. like it's really, really hard. Like, this is the hardest it's ever been for me in my professional career to figure out, like, what is state of the art right now. The half-life on most large LLMs is like, what, 6 months? Like it's advancing so rapidly that I always feel like I'm behind on what's going on. And this is my job, like, is to do this, right? And so I really feel for the folks I talk with and I meet with at customers, because, you know, they've got their day job to do and then they're being tasked with this on top of that. So it totally understand that it is a very fast moving time right now. And to the extent that it helps, like, I would say, like, don't get too stressed out about, like I was saying before, like, the technologies themselves. Like, look at examples of these things and try to understand the broad strokes of what they can do.
Erin was just trying to make everybody feel better after I brought my doom and gloom to the situation. But I agree with you, just to say, like, it's chaos, it's moving super fast. Like, it's hard for anyone to feel that they are ahead of it. But yeah, you said it very nicely, and I hope everyone feels better.
Yeah, AI definitely moves super quickly. So Erin, how do your platforms support collaboration between government agencies or across departments while maintaining secure data sharing practices?
We are still figuring that out. That is an open area. We are figuring that out. Collaboration is hugely important. We talk about that all the time with customers. And one of the great things about what's going on in AI right now is that there's huge investments in the commercial space. Not just Google, but tons of companies are pouring a ton of money into the research and development of these systems to meet the needs of the commercial space. And one of the things I sort of look at in my job is to take those advances and communicate them to government customers and say, like, hey, look, here's this new thing we can do over here in the commercial sector. This is how it can help you in the national security space. Or it can either be used directly or we can adapt it to your space. Unfortunately, one thing that there isn't a lot of parallels for in the commercial space is dealing with like segmented classified information, all the caveats that go along with that. And so that is often, when we look at like adapting those commercial technologies into the national security space, that's an area where there is a little bit of the lift that comes in. We work with partners to help make that happen, but that is something that as you look to the commercial field to adopt into these areas, that is something that where there is going to be a difference. Now, the flip side of that is that with AI, it can actually help, once AI is deployed in these environments, it can actually help with that process so that it can be an extra set of smart eyes in those collaboration chains to prevent things from being shared that inadvertently, that maybe shouldn't be shared. I've had conversations with customers about improving redaction processes using AI, about disseminating information to foreign partners and how we could get better at that. And there's a lot of different ways that we are still at the early stages of exploring to help AI, to have AI help us do that in ways that are more secure, and so that we can get that information out to share that across parties much more rapidly.
Okay, so here's a question for both of you all, right? So there's a lot of excitement in AI right now. What's one common misconception about AI from your area of expertise, and how would you address it for this audience?
I think I actually kind of addressed this earlier, but just high level, everybody thinks it's gonna take their jobs. It's not. It will augment them. It will make life easier. It will allow workers to engage in higher level thinking, not the mundane on a regular basis. I think that's true. But I also think the thing that I said earlier, which is that it will not always be a situation where workers are going to just be users of AI. I think that building those skills in AI is going to be very important for every single worker, and especially data owners and process owners.
Let's see, I would say two things to answer that. Two common misconceptions that I have, that I encounter. One is that it's a flash in the pan. It's not NFTs. It's not. I think it is. We are absolutely in the early stages of seeing what AI can do, especially large language models, and how they can impact workflows. And so it is worth investing in professionally. It is worth investing in as part of your organization. The second misconception is that you need AI. Sometimes I meet with folks and they're like, we need some AI. And I'm like, what for? And they're like, we need it. Everyone else has it. We need AI. Give us some AI. And it's like, well, what for? Like, what are you trying to do, right? And so the thing that what I'm sort of leading into is, and this, I really liked Colonel Saling's pyramid that she showed earlier, which is like the different ways that you can adopt AI into your processes versus like what you would keep separate. That's really important because to do that properly, you need to understand like what are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? And so you need to, for any AI project to be successful, you have to have that in mind and work backwards from there. And what you might find is that you don't actually need AI to do it, or especially LLMs. It's weird to say this now, but we have like old AI or traditional AI, like things like, oh, it's just a translation model, or it's just some like advanced statistical model. Well, maybe that's all you need, right? Like you don't, like think about what you're actually trying to accomplish and what are the tools that are available to you. Maybe you don't need anything AI at all. Maybe like you need a better networking connection because it's just, there's too much latency there, right? Or maybe you need a better database. So always understanding like what are the mission goals, what are the outcomes that you need, and working backwards from there and figuring out what's the technology is the way to go. And you might not need AI for that.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about AI and how you use it in a professional space. So I know there's a lot of people in here that are interested in learning how they can use AI maybe in their day-to-day. And I know Google has a Gen AI platform that you can learn AI from. I believe, Lisa, you said Deloitte has a platform as well. So here's a question for both of you all. If somebody here wanted to start learning about AI as a national security practitioner, where would you recommend that they begin?
I can start. I mean, I would say just start with where you are, right? If you work at a place or have your own Microsoft license, open up Copilot, and go on ChatGPT. Like basically just familiarize yourself with whatever you can get your hands on to start. Because I think immediately you will find the value that it can bring to you, which then can help you to translate that understanding to all of the other parts of what you do and how you work. But I think beyond that, I'm familiar with, there's like a whole bunch of different free labs and environment. I think there's Google Colab is one. There's I don't know. There's a whole lot of different solutions out there that can familiarize yourself with it. But I mean, also go to stuff like this. Like, check. You're already doing some of that now. Yeah, high five. But I would say it's just about kind of building from where you are, trying things out yourself. There is a Deloitte Center for AI for Government. Webinars, events, and the like that have been recorded and are scheduled into the future. But yeah, I bet that you have a better answer on this being from Google, Aaron, so over to you.
Well, as one of the speakers earlier today, YouTube is a thing. I encourage everyone to watch lots of YouTube videos, click on all the ads, please. Thank you. That's one option. Google also has a number of tools and capabilities, educational resources for learning about AI. One that I personally like a whole lot is called Notebook LM. It's a free resource. I see some heads nodding. Yeah, it's something you can try out for free if you have a Gmail address. And what that allows you to do is import documents or websites into a repository. It's using RAG under the hood. And then you can ask questions of it. So recently, I had the really fun experience of my hot water heater died, and I had to get a new one. And I opted to get one that has a heat pump with it because there's a number of rebates that you can send away from the government to reimburse you for the cost. This was a non-trivial process, and I was like, I hate filling out paperwork. I don't know how I managed to get a security clearance. And instead of like trying to figure it out myself, I'm like, I don't have time for this. So I just downloaded all the government documents, threw them into Notebook LM, and I was like, here's the hot water heater I bought. Is it qualified? And they said yes. And I was like, all right, how do I get the reimbursement? And it told me what to do. And I just did that. So it absolutely is great for things like that. And plus, you can make podcasts. So if you wanted a podcast about how to get reimbursed for your hot water heater, it can generate that as well. For anyone who is maybe a little more technically inclined and wants to actually like dig into these things a little bit more, Colab is great. That's like a free resource. It's based off Jupyter Notebooks. If you're familiar with that, it's a lot of Python. And you can use that to like really start to like build these tools out yourself if you want to get really hands-on. So yeah. Oh, and lastly, I would say like, travel to industry events, but I don't know how much of an option that is for our government colleagues these days.
Yeah, that's true. So I know we do have some time left. Should we ask some questions?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
So we've actually been live streaming this to candidates on the ClearanceJobs platform, so say hi. So someone has a question: how do you ensure AI models remain unbiased and ethically sound, particularly when it comes to building profiles or avatars for maybe candidates?
I'm happy to take that. So Deloitte, in our approach, we leverage IO or industrial organizational psychologists, typically with PhDs, who are charged with making sure that our approach is scientifically valid and legally defensible. And so the amount of bias tests that we make sure we go through in the building of profiles is driven by those IO psychologists, and also tested and crowdsourced through multiple platforms to make sure that we are not just building the model a certain way, assuming that it works without bias, but then testing it to be certain of that. And I'm not an IO psychologist, but I can tell you that the rigor that's put into it is, months long if you have the time for that. But ultimately, it's definitely a top priority in the building of any model for AI, for selection especially.
mentioned, obviously Deloitte has built out their own proprietary models. Google obviously being a leading competitor in that space as well. Specifically with government contracting, a lot of the questions are where is this data going? Who's able to see that stuff? Do you expect larger companies in the space to build out their own models or use providers like Google, OpenAI to have that B2B type of relationship?
Yes. I think both. I think it's inevitable that, depending on what the need is, as Aaron was saying before, right? It's about the question that you're trying to answer. How much, what are you willing to invest? There's many pieces to it. So I think that the answer is like yes and.
Yeah, absolutely. From a technological perspective, it's not one size fits all. In some conversations I've had with some government customers, government partners, they're like, hey, we want to train our own foundational model. And I'm like, hey, that literally costs hundreds of millions of dollars. No, you don't want to do that. Because there's this whole spectrum of different things that you can do that are much easier that could actually improve your process or get you the outcome you want. So that's why I'm repeating myself, but it's so important to approach it from an outcomes-based perspective, because yes, maybe there would be some benefit to training your own foundational model, but have you tried prompt engineering? Have you tried asking the question of an existing model a slightly different way? Have you tried fine-tuning? Have you tried built a RAG style approach or building an agent? So there's a whole process of things that you can do, a whole spectrum of things from relatively easy to incredibly challenging that you should be exploring it, but you need to have that outcome in mind to know okay, do we actually need to do that?
One more question? Last call? Last call for questions. No? Yes. Any questions?
I got one. Prompt engineering. It is the essence of making sure that what your output is absolutely what you're looking for, right? And is there a way that you can, or is there a tool that can help you create better prompts to get the output you're looking for?
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
You know what's really good at helping you write a prompt for an LLM? An LLM. It's absolutely true, right? I've done this myself where I'm like, hey, this answer isn't quite what I wanted. This is what I'm trying to do. How can I change my prompt? And you ask an LLM that, and it will suggest prompts to you. So it's kind of crazy, but you can absolutely do that. And that's something I've done. And you're starting to see that be incorporated into semi-autonomous systems to help users do that sort of at scale. On the other side of things, there's actually things you can do in sort of the API intermediaries to help with getting the right data back or making sure it's in the right format, or the SQL query that you submit to the database doesn't accidentally delete everything and things like that. Google just released something called an AI toolbox. It's open source, everyone can go check it out, it's on GitHub, that helps with sort of some of those things and puts in some basic checks to make sure that the data that comes back from the data source is correct and only certain types of queries get issued against it.
Is there a plan to shorten the amount of time that it takes to actually set up an agent?
Yeah, well, a plan is maybe a strong word. The way that the industry is heading is to build out frameworks that make it a little bit easier to build agents. So the two things I would sort of say in answer to that are, well, three things. One, you're going to see more adoption of frameworks. So from the people who are actually building agents, the technical infrastructure to deploy them and manage them is going to get more mature, but it's very early right now. So from the coders building the agents perspective, there's still a long way to go. A lot of things that are agents, you can actually write yourself using English. So they're essentially sophisticated prompts. And Google itself, we have something called conversational agents, and I created one of those recently. And the majority of my work was spent typing out like, hey, this is what your goal is. This is what I want you to do. These are the types of responses that I want you to do. There was that's something anyone could do. It's the programming language is effectively English at that point. So you'll see, so a lot of agents you're gonna see are gonna be, it will be democratized, building individual agents. And then I think the third thing that you would sort of see to make agents a little bit builder. The other thing I would say, the third thing I would say in that conversation is, again, don't automate things that you do once a year that take an hour, right? Like you need to be thinking about the business processes, the business outcomes, the mission outcomes that are important here, and prioritize your efforts accordingly.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So appreciate it.